this is Dr. Beach, and I'm really excited to be here today with the international award-winning Matthew Luppino and his fiancée Laura Holman. And Matthew's premiering his latest film called Hope, which stands for Hold On, Pain Ends. Hi, Laura. Hi, Matthew.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing, Dr. Beach?
Why don't you start by telling me what inspired you to produce the film and why you chose the title Hope?
It started where I was going through a lot at the time, and Laura, actually, we were in bed, and she just kind of looked at me and said, "I wish you could see yourself through my eyes," and that kind of resonated with me. Being the idea of maybe having a suicide victim and seeing their perspective, and also seeing maybe a loved one's perspective, and then it just felt natural to tell the story through a mirror's perspective, so that you could see the two sides of it simultaneously, in one take, kind of thing. You are able to kind of look at yourself in your own eyes and really see that window to your soul, kind of thing.
And Laura, when you said, I wish that you could see yourself through my eyes, what were you wanting Matthew to see?
I'm like, I wish that you could see how great you are and like all of your great attributes, and not to dwell on your flaws, because we all have flaws.
We need hope instilled, and sometimes, we can do that on our own, and sometimes we need someone to be our biggest cheerleader, right? And, remind us or tell us the positive things about ourselves that, we're not focused on or we don't even remember anymore. Can you tell me kind of briefly about the storyline of Hope?
Basically, the storyline is it deals with past, present, and future. Starts off that it takes place in which would be the future, and the suicide victim had succeeded. He committed suicide, and it's about the loved one living on after the fact, and the ripple effect that it has on that person. And the guilt and the regret and all these dark emotions that they now feel because of suicide. And then it kind of goes back and forth between past, present, and future, so that you see what the suicide victim was going through in that mind state as they're about to do it. And then towards the end of the film, it basically wraps it all up that it's all really in his head. And it becomes then a present moment when he's about to do it, and all these thoughts are going on in his head. So it's almost like saying, if you were about to commit suicide, that when you're in that state of mind, if you could see hope, if you could see another side, that all these little conversations could happen in your head, and if you could just find something to live for.
How long was it from when you first started to struggle in high school until you made it some active efforts to get some help?
In high school, you fit in with these people, and then they change, and then you change, and you're going from friend to friend to friend, and all along the way, you're supposed to figure out what you're supposed to do with your life and your future. And you change so much throughout high school that by the time you hit grade 12, you kind of don't know who you are. My emotional level and who I wanted to be, they were two different things. So I recognized all these signs, but I didn't do anything with them. And I didn't believe in doctors. No disrespect to you. I didn't at that time. I didn't believe in the health industry in itself. I didn't understand medicine. I didn't understand doctors. I just felt that if I have a problem, I can fix it. But sometimes it's not the fact that you can fix it. It's just the fact that there is a chemical imbalance. It's scientific, and you have to just be vulnerable and let yourself just say, okay, I can accept the fact that I need help.
Yeah, and our culture, still in many cases, men in particular are raised to kind of have a bravado. One of the most powerful things someone can do is relinquish control and admit that they need help, because the real power is in having the ability to expose yourself and be vulnerable around other people. And that's one of the fears people have about treatment. So Matthew, when you finally went forward and got the help you needed and you got treatment, What changed?
Um, the way it happened was I was having a lot of suicidal thoughts, and it was like 2 in the morning at the time. I was messaging my friends because I was really afraid of what I was going through, and I didn't know if I was gonna wake up the next morning. Um, and they all rushed to my house we all were outside my house at 3 in the morning, and they were kind of talking me down and just really supporting me in that way, and they had woke up my parents, and we all rushed to the hospital, and just seeing my friends' support, and it's crazy to think about because now I thank them for it, but at the time I was so upset that they showed up at my house, and I was so upset that they brought me to the hospital because there was two reasons. One, I was afraid of what that meant, what that's gonna look like, how is hospitalization, what do I do, and the other thing is that you're so vulnerable, and you're afraid of how the world's going to perceive you. I had a psychiatrist there for over 2 hours, and they really assessed my situation and realized that I had been diagnosed manic bipolar, and it makes perfect sense. Looking back on it now, it makes perfect sense. Back in that moment, I was like, I don't understand, but it's when you're doing something that you love and you're getting like super excited about it, like over the top excited, almost like you're on drugs. And then all of a sudden the next hour you're lower than low, and you're sitting there and you're bawling your eyes out, and you have suicidal thoughts, and then like the next hour you're super happy again. So that's when I really started getting proper treatment. What Abilify did was it kind of leveled everything off. And over time with therapy, which I found was the best thing that helped was just talking about it. It wasn't until I would say at least a year into it, being on Abilify, every day, didn't miss a day, and really taking the therapy seriously. And I step back and I say, okay, how am I doing? Did I sleep properly last night? Am I eating properly? How is my stress load? And that's what really led to this story. Was I wanted to share how I came from such a dark thought pattern to now a very positive thought pattern. It was Abilify that really stabilized everything. And first and foremost, the medication works. Like, all the medication works for the specific purpose it's prescribed for. The stabilization is so well, it's you don't really know if you're coming or going anymore. Like, you have no mood. It's almost like it's masking all your emotions. It really took a long time to level off, but people have to realize that it is scientific. If your chemicals are all over the place, stabilizing it kind of sets to a reset. But it has a lot of side effects, of course. And a lot of people, when they're doing medications or taking them, or they get prescribed them, or even the reason they stop taking them is because of those side effects, or just the simple fact that people don't want to be dependent on pills.
Right. I mean, we've come a long way regarding mental health stigma reduction, but we still have, I think you'd probably agree, we still have a long way to go. So in terms of suicide, which I know is a very personal and important topic, I mean, one of the ways that some people talk about suicide risk is they'll look at different risk factors, and then they'll look at risk factors which can increase the risk of suicide, and then they'll look at protective factors which can actually protect against or lower the suicide risk. And for example, one of the risk factors people call static risk factors. So static risk factors, as the name suggests, they're static. So they're stasis, they don't change, and you can't treat them, but they're really important. So an example would be if suicide runs in families, which we know that it does, someone having a family history of suicide would be a static factor. And so even though you can't change your family or change your genetics, it's really important to know that if you have, oftentimes when there's a suicide within a family, there can be many suicides within that family. Another example could be if someone's had a prior suicide attempt. Once someone's had one suicide attempt, that places them at an increased risk. And then there are what we call dynamic factors, which are dynamic. So they're more fluid, and so they're potentially things that we can intervene, we can address, or we can treat. So examples, like the kinds of examples we've talked about, could be depression. So that's something, if you experience, you actually can do something about. You can get help, you can do therapy, you can take medications, bipolar disorder or mania. Okay, Laura, I have a question for you. If you could share what your experience has been like living with and supporting someone who has a mental health condition.
I'd say the biggest thing is, like, for a tip, I'm just going to say it right off the bat, is validate their feelings. Let them know that their feelings are normal and that they're okay to feel stressed, high anxiety. Like, these are normal things. It's how we act on those. You need to let them, like, I've had personal, when Matt gets really worked up, whether it be work or the film stuff, like, he comes to me and he's like, I can't figure it out. Like, I'm just so stressed. And I'm like, okay, take a minute, like, breathe. I'm like, what's got you so stressed? So I have him just kind of talk to me, and I just sit and listen. And that's the biggest thing, is letting them be able to vent their feelings and frustrations and all the things that have them so high or so low, so they can validate, and so that they can really get it off their chest and be like, okay, like, I feel better talking about it.
I agree with you. At the crux of supporting someone is having them know and feel that you're there for them, and you don't have to pretend for me or feel something that you don't feel.
For me, I love Matthew no matter who he is, which side of his personality is coming out at that time. It doesn't matter, but because I know that even when he is in those moments and he might say hurtful things and he might lash out, that I know it's just in the frustrations of everything that he doesn't know how to cope with what's going on.
I got a good one. That's what I'm thinking. No, honestly, I'm so lucky to have her in my life and just in my corner. I can't even tell you how many times I've had to lean on her, and she is hope. Like, this film is her. Like, the essence of the film is her. Like, everything about what the film is Laura, and what she makes me feel is what I'm really trying to portray in this film, and the essence of hope and finding hope.
I want to thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, Dr.
Yes,
Beach.
definitely.
This is wonderful.